Hi, I'm the Nia. I'm a lecturer in psychology and my passion is behavioural engineering. In this video, I want to talk about how to build self-discipline using a single easy habit called a cueing habit. In this video, I'll talk about why you should use cueing habits, how to choose the right cueing habit for you, and also how to strengthen the habit using behavioural reinforcement. If you're watching this video, I imagine that you're not a naturally self-disciplined person and you've sort of wondered, is self-discipline something I'm supposed to be born with and I've missed out on it, or is it something that I can develop over time? I was lucky enough to have an honours degree in psychology, so I built myself a strategy based on behavioural psychology. A cueing habit is a small habit that once established is going to serve as a cue or prompt for other habits. It's a small, fun, easily achievable habit that's going to serve as our first building block to general self-discipline. So the human brain forms habits through something called the cue to reward loop. If you want to learn a lot of detail about that, I've got a whole video linked in the description below, but essentially what it is that a stimulus in our environment serves as a prompt or trigger and causes a behavior to occur. The behavior is reinforced through dopamine release in our brain, which increases the probability that next time we encounter the same environmental cue, we're going to perform the same behavior. So what we're doing with cueing habits is sort of hijacking that cue to reward loop. So we're going to create our own environmental cue or trigger that is going to become so automatic we encounter it every day. Then we'll use something called behavioural chaining and decide which new behaviour we want to be triggered by our cueing habit. We'll use behavioural chaining and reinforcement to strengthen this second behaviour, which will itself become a habit and a cue for the next behaviour, and so on. When choosing a cueing habit, there's a few principles to keep in mind. So 1, it should be something productive but enjoyable. 2, it does help if it's something inspiring. And 3, it should be super easy. One of the problems with building self-discipline and turning things into a habit is that most of the behaviours that require discipline, like studying, cleaning, going to the gym, are either hard, boring, or kind of unpleasant. If they weren't, we probably wouldn't need self-discipline in order to perform those behaviors. So our biggest focus when choosing your cueing habit is choosing something that you actually really enjoy doing. Of course, it should also be productive and kind of contribute to a larger goal in some way, but the idea here is to start making being a disciplined person fun. So to give you a little bit of context, when I started using cueing habits, I was the least self-disciplined I'd ever been. So I had PTSD and major depression, and most days I could barely motivate myself to get out of bed and shower, let alone be productive. So I actually didn't have a specific goal in mind at that time, other than I knew I just had to get out of bed and do something if I was going to turn my life around. Now, of course, I engaged the help of a psychologist as well to deal with the other stuff, but in terms of self-discipline, cueing habits were really useful. So the cueing habit you choose for yourself is probably going to be different to mine, but the one I chose for myself was that every morning when I woke up, the first thing I would do would be to open my phone and listen to a 5-minute motivational clip on YouTube. The reason I really enjoyed doing this is because of the pleasant emotions I felt when I did it. When I listened to motivational clips on YouTube, particularly first thing in the morning, it gave me a bit of a boost of inspiration and self-confidence. It instilled a little bit of pride because even though I wasn't doing so well, I was doing something that probably the majority of people weren't doing, is that I was starting my day with something productive instead of hitting snooze or scrolling Facebook. So I really enjoyed the clips. So you might choose to put on some of your favorite music or your favorite audiobook while you get dressed into your favorite gym clothes. The key to a cueing habit though is you don't actually have to go to the gym afterwards. You just put on the music, get dressed as if you were going to the gym, and then you do whatever you want. Or your cueing habit might be that you spend 5 minutes browsing luxury mansions or cars and daydreaming about which one you're going to buy when your business takes off. Or it might be saving pictures of outfits you're going to buy when you lose some weight. I've included some more ideas for what you might choose in the worksheet, but really the key to a queuing habit is just choosing something that you actually really look forward to doing. More on that in just a few seconds, I promise, but if you are finding the video interesting so far, please take the time to hit subscribe, like, or leave a comment. So the second criteria is it should be something that causes a little bit of inspiration or excitement to start brewing in you. So for instance, I chose the YouTube motivational clips because they made me feel inspired and instilled a little bit of pride in me first thing in the morning. So if your goal is to become physically healthy, then choose a queuing habit that's going to inspire some kind of excitement around your weight loss goals. If your goal is financial, then choose something that's going to give you some kind of excitement about what it will mean for your life to be more financially stable. So the final criteria in terms of choosing your queuing habit is that you need to choose something easy, and I mean easy. Another reason I chose watching a clip on YouTube as my habit is because it was almost impossible to fail at this. I didn't even have to get out of bed to do it, which when you have PTSD and major depression is pretty important. So if I'd had insomnia all night and was shattered tired, or I was sick or so anxious I couldn't move or hungover, I found that I could still grab my phone and press play. So don't be discouraged that the first habit is really small. This is essentially our half-kilo dumbbell at the gym. Yes, the goal is eventually to lift 100 pounds or whatever it is, but if you walk straight into the gym and try to lift 200 pounds, you're probably going to injure yourself and fail. And it's the same thing with habits. Using reinforcement to strengthen the habit. So you've given yourself the best chance of success by choosing something that's fun and really easy. But the next thing we want to do is make sure that first queuing habit is really deeply ingrained and automatic. So the reason any behavior becomes a habit is because we get this little piece of pleasure or satisfaction in the form of dopamine release whenever we perform the behavior. Eating chocolate or checking your Facebook becomes habitual because whenever we take a bite or click the little bell, our brain gets this rush of dopamine and the brain learns that this behavior is a source of pleasure. Now we've already chosen a habit that we find pleasurable in and of itself, but I want to make sure the habit is like carved in stone. So we're going to add a little bit more reinforcement both immediately and at the end of a successful week. So when we talk about immediate reinforcement, essentially what we're trying to do is maximize the amount of pleasure or dopamine you get from performing that queuing habit. So something you might try is, ticking it off a list either physically or on your phone and getting that little burst of achievement when you cross it off. You might also want to add another little reward. So maybe you complete your habit, like you watch a clip and then you blast one of your favorite songs in celebration. Or maybe you just kick back and bask in the glory of how rad you are. If you're feeling like it's over the top to celebrate something so small, just remember that you're doing something I guarantee 90% of people aren't. You're making a real commitment to moving toward your goal instead of chasing the next get thin or get rich quick scheme. The other thing we probably want to reward ourselves for is consistency. So it's a good idea to set a goal for 3 days or a week or whatever it might be, and then reward yourself for sticking to the queuing habit consistently for that time. The reward can be probably anything, but I would recommend that it is contingent on successfully sticking to your habit. What I mean by this is, say you're going to use going to the movies as a reward, but you've already made plans with your friend to go to the movies at the end of the week. If you're probably not going to cancel them even if you fail at your habit, then it's not a very good reward. Once our queuing habit becomes really automatic, that is, most days you're finding yourself doing the habit without even really thinking about it, you've successfully created your environmental cue. So now we can use behavioral chaining to build upon our queuing habit and create general self-discipline. The video was getting very long, so I break it up into 2 parts. I go through behavioral chaining in part 2, which I've linked in the description below. Thank you for taking some time out to work on your brain with me. I'll see you next time.